Hello and good evening. My name is Joseph Colombo. I am the proud principal here at Pleasantville High School. I want to welcome you all to this evening's program. We've got a mixed group. We've got some parents and families of current high school students. We've got some folks from the Pleasantville Middle School, and we have some folks who are joining us from Botanical Hills. This is a great opportunity to learn about our advanced placement, our dual enrollment, and our honors offerings. We've got a phenomenal panel of teachers, building leaders, content area specialists, school counselors here this evening to talk to you about those programs as you make the transition for our 8th graders here into the high school, and for our current students as you make the transition from the 9th grade to the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. This is also a good opportunity to have a conversation about these programs. It's February. What we start to do in February is develop academic programs for the upcoming school year. So whether you're an 8th grader or a current high school student, that's something you'll be doing with your school counselor. One thing I want to stress, and I did this last week when I met with 8th grade families, please fully utilize those school counselors. Develop strong relationships with them. They are a great resource. They're here to help you. We strive for continuity in regards to services with school counselors. So if you were a family that graduated a senior and you're coming back again, see somebody in the audience who's in that position, you will get the chance to work with the counselor you worked with previously. If you're interested in any kind of change or want to have a conversation about counselor assignment, I encourage you to contact me directly. But again, I can't say it enough. Please, let's leverage those great professionals that we have in the school counseling office to make sure that your children have the best experience possible here at Pleasantville High School. A few highlights for this evening. I mentioned a moment ago that we're going to be discussing honors courses, which are local courses, dual enrollment courses, which are courses that are offered here at the high school through partnerships with universities, and the third type of course are advanced placement courses, which are offered in partnership with the College Board. Great opportunities to learn and grow. We have over 20 of those advanced placement offerings here in the building. We've got several different dual enrollment offerings with different universities. And they're great opportunities, like I said, to really focus your studies. What we'll also do is have our coordinator of school counseling, her name is Miss Joyce Connell. She's here this evening. She'll be here to answer questions about transcripts and what that experience might look like on the transcript as you prepare for the post-secondary life when you finish Pleasantville High School. What we'll begin with this evening is Mr. Fondy. He's an assistant principal here in the building. He's going to talk a little bit about the different course offerings in greater detail.
Hi, I'm Greg Fondy, the assistant principal of the high school. People want to know, what is the local honors courses? What does that mean? These are honors level courses at the high school. It's based on a couple of factors of how a student is selected for the honors program. If your child, if you're an 8th grader right now and you are taking earth science and algebra, you are not really in an honors course, you're in an accelerated course right now. Next year, if you're in earth science, you would take biology. If you're in Algebra 1 right now, next year you would take geometry. The honors level course is a course that's based on a couple of factors for entry. One, it's your grades in that course, looking for people that have strong grade point averages. We don't have a gate at the door that states you have a 90 or above and you're in. We're looking for a student with a good grade point average in that course. We're looking for someone that's driven, that's motivated, that completes their work, that participates in class. And also there's a component where the teacher provides recommendations. So if you're an 8th grade parent, you'll be meeting, if you would like, with the guidance counselor in the spring. The current teachers will be making recommendations based on your child's progress this year for honors level. So if you look at the honors level in 9th grade, they are English, 9 honors. Social studies, it's called world history, 9 honors. There's advanced and honors courses in the world languages. And for example, if you're taking earth science now, there's biology honors, obviously math, there's a geometry honors. Now it doesn't mean if you are in Algebra 1 this year that you're automatically in geometry honors. That's part of a recommendation and your grades in that course. Is it most likely you'll be in geometry honors? Good chance you will be. But if you're somewhat struggling this year in algebra, you may be put in a regular Regents level geometry class for next year. Likewise, if your child is taking math 8th grade right now, and next year they're in algebra, and they've done very well in the class, there's no reason that the next year, their sophomore year, they could be recommended for the next honors class, which would be geometry. So it's not a system where you're always in the honors. You can place into the honors doing well in a course even if you're in the regular, quote, Regents level class. So again, what's the criteria? Grade level, motivation, grade point average, teacher, recommendation. Academic rigor, why is an honors course different than a, quote, regular 9th grade class? There's usually a system where there's more in-depth knowledge of the subject. In English class, for example, in 9th grade, they read more novels than the Regents level class. There might be some more thought-provoking assignments, there might be some more writing, and there's also an expectation that you will be involved in class discussions and participate in the program. And then there's something here called local end-of-the-year assessments. These honors level classes end with the teacher writing the end-of-the-year final and the midterm. Regents exams, if you've never taken them before, Regents exams are common end-of-the-year exams offered by New York State in the subject. So for example, anyone taking Algebra Regents, everyone in the state will take the same exam at the same time. One exam. Just if you want to know, you can go to the New York website. I can help you afterwards. I can show you where to look to find past exams for good practice. I know the teachers do that anyway. And the last aspect of this page is level changes through the first semester. We encourage people to take classes and challenge themselves. So your son or daughter or child might be in a class and they're having a great experience and doing very well. Or maybe in October, early November, they're really struggling. You've already met with the guidance counselor, you've already contacted the teacher, you're ruling out all these factors and you're saying, wait a second, my child cannot be successful in this class. You can work with guidance to move out of that honors level class to a grade level course. That can be done. There is a big however though. One of the great things about Pleasantville is that it's a small school and we know everyone. One of the negative things is we don't have many classes in each particular course and subject. So there might only be one or two sections of, let's say, of a geometry class or a math class or a social studies class. And if you want to move out of that honors class, it might not align perfectly. So for example, if you had a third period math and you wanted to switch, there might not be a comparable course to go to third period. It might be that you have to move many classes and then your child might not want to do that because they're having success with the other classes. So that's just something to remember with that. The next page. Advanced placement courses and some little particulars about this. What does open enrollment mean? I mentioned the gate before. Anyone can take advanced placement courses. As Joe mentioned, we have 20 courses in advanced placement. They range courses of math, social studies, science, English, language arts, the languages, art, and music. You can take these classes, and when it's time to schedule, you'll meet with your guidance counselor. If you want the challenge of the class, you can take that. Mrs. Connell's office might actually dissuade you from taking the class. If you're really struggling in a particular content and you want to take that advanced placement course, they're going to sit down with you and tell you what are the pros and what are some of the challenges of that. Advanced placement courses are offered mostly for juniors and seniors. There are several classes for sophomores. There are one or two for freshmen as well. It's not common, but it's in our course directly. I'll be more than happy, rather than going over the 20 courses now, I can talk to you individually about them. The courses for advanced placement, as Joe mentioned, it's under the umbrella of the College Board. The College Board runs the advanced placement courses and the SAT. And the advanced placement courses, it's a prescribed curriculum that all the kids in the entire country, if they're taking advanced placement, not only in New York State, they will all sit for the same common end-of-the-year assessment in May throughout the country. They sit for this exam, and we have a schedule over 2 weeks in May where we take the exam. They are scored on a 1 to 5 basis, 5 being the best score. 5 is the equivalent of excellent, 4 is good, 3 is average, and so on. But what it really means is if you're getting a 3, 4, or 5, the colleges are looking at that as someone who's been successful in college level course. Because remember, the advanced placement course is a college level curriculum-based course. And it tells the college that if your child has done a 3, 4, or 5, that they are successful in a college course. Now, the question is, my child has a 4 on an AP US History. Does that mean that in college they'll be given 3 credits that they don't have to take in college? It depends. Some schools will give you those 3 credits. But remember, colleges are also are a for-profit organization. So what they might do is, you taking US History for an example, they might say, okay, you've done great, 5 on US History. You are now exempt as a freshman for basic, I'm just making this up, freshman year history, but you have to take the next level instead. So you might be either exempt, take the next level, or many colleges, and a lot of the top tier colleges, it's an expectation that you're going to take these courses. And they're saying, if you want to come to the school, you are taking the APs, and we are giving you nothing for that, but you needed that for your transcript for entry. Okay, so every school is different. Some schools take the credit. A lot of state schools in Europe will take that credit. They might say you're forgiven those 3 credits, or they might say you have to take a more advanced class. And again, as we mentioned here, it's at the discretion of the school. The dual enrollment classes. Again, these are courses taught by high school teachers at Pleasantville. We have partnerships with Syracuse University, Mercy, and Westchester Community. Syracuse University, the course is called, the acronym is SUPA, Syracuse University Project Advance. We offer a couple of courses here based on student interest. And Mr. Lamar, right here, raise your hand, Mr. Lamar. Mr. Lamar was instrumental in bringing these courses, he's our curriculum coordinator, to Pleasantville. And kids came to us, they wanted additional electives. So we now offer African American Studies and Women's Gender Studies through Syracuse. Our teachers teach the course, but the curriculum is prescribed by the university. They tell us what to teach. We do give a final exam in some of the courses that are dual enrollment, and it's either a hybrid that the school tells us what to take, or we can have some say. Mostly it's what the schools tell us what to take in terms of the final exam. Mercy College is our college Italian course, and students are dual enrolled in Mercy and at the high school, and Westchester Community College we offer 2 math classes. So you can take those for college credit. So for example, if you're taking a Mercy College Italian class, you can elect to take it for credit or not for credit. You could just be in the class or be on your regular transcript. The beautiful thing is the cost of these courses is very reasonable. The SUPA course is $345 this year for 3 credits, which is much, much cheaper than if you went to college for those credits. The Italian course in Mercy is approximately $250 for the whole year. And the Westchester Community College course this year is $263. So you're getting 3 credits while also going to the high school, while also taking courses that you needed to take for your high school curriculum anyhow, and getting 3 credits as well. So in that respect, it's a good working relationship with the schools. All right, Joanne Puglisi. What's that, Joe?
I'll do so.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg. Just a couple things I wanted to add quickly before we transition and highlight some of our specific programs here in the building. Greg talked a little bit about recommendations. We try our best to triangulate that information in an effort to make the best possible decision for students, right? So we get the teacher recommendation, the counselor will bring a parent or the adult that the student lives with in to have a conversation, and we'll have a conversation with the student. What we found, and Joyce can attest to this, I'm sure she will later when she talks about the work that our school counselors do, when those 3 people work together, that's when we have the greatest success in terms of developing the best possible academic programs for students. One other thing I want to talk about quickly is the recommendation process for teachers. 8th grade teachers or teachers here in the building who make a recommendation for your student's academic program really do so in isolation, right? So all of your child's teachers may recommend them for an honors level course, but when you put the whole equation together, it might not all work at the same time for each student, which is why it's so important for the counselor and the parent and the student to sit down and look at the whole program and think about balance and what program best serves each student. Because every student is different, right? And I imagine, I'm hoping, one of the things you hear from all of our panelists this evening and from our counselors when you work with them is this emphasis around balance and the whole student. We certainly want our children here to be challenged, to be in rigorous courses, to achieve at a high level. And we also want them to have a good experience in high school and be real happy and involved in a number of different things. So you will hear balance a lot. And like I said, that's why it's so important that once we get those individual recommendations from teachers, we come together as a team and make a decision about what the best program looks like for your individual students. And if I could just share one quick message with the students in the room. I see you. Hope you see me. Hope you hear me. You need to think about what's best for you. I can talk about my experience, with an 8th grader who came into the high school, and she was my daughter, and I tried to talk to her about balance, and she so badly wanted to be in all of the classes with all of her friends. And as a 9th grader, she made that decision to do that. Her experience was mixed. As a 10th grader, she made some adjustments, and she started to make decisions really thinking about her and her program and the things she was most interested in, as opposed to the group. That's really hard to do as a teenager. It's hard as an adult also. But if you could just please think about that, as you make this transition, each person is different. Your success is going to look different than someone else's success. Your day will look different than someone else's day. Just things to consider as we guide, provide you with information to develop the best possible program that also provides you with levels of balance. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to introduce Ms. Puglisi. We're going to highlight some of our specialized programs. I think Ms. Puglisi is going to talk a little bit about science research.
That's right. Welcome, everybody. Can you hear me? Probably, I don't even think I need the microphone. I'm pretty loud anyway, right? Our science research program is also a super program. We have an affiliation with Syracuse University for a science research program. That begins here in the high school in 10th grade. So I know some of you, where are my 8th graders? Who's 8th grade? 8th grade, anybody 9th grade? So we got a little bit of time before we start talking about that science research, but it is something good to get on your radar. I know we have a Science Olympiad coming up this weekend. Anybody involved in that? Where's my Science Olympiad people? Shout out! We're looking forward to that on Saturday, and hopefully in other states, right? But anyway, the Super Science Research Program is a 3-year program commencing in 10th grade. And during that first year in 10th grade, they do not earn college credit. So it's kind of a preliminary, you have to get through the first year. And they're really teaching the foundations of research, different parts of what they're doing with research, but a big part of that is securing a mentor, kind of working as a funnel. What's your big area of interest, and can we narrow this down to a particular topic? And can we find a mentor that's willing to work with you? Some of our students work with outside mentors at Regeneron and have other experiences at some local universities. And if anybody out there in the audience has any connections, and we're always looking for mentors. Our Friends of STEM are always great at helping us and pointing us in the right direction for helping the students. So a special thank you to Friends of STEM for that. So during that first year, we're looking to get all that information. Our second year and our third year, which are the junior year and the senior years respectively, you have the potential to earn 8 college credits, 4 years during your junior year and 4 years during your senior year. Unlike the AP, these are not hinged upon how well you perform on a one-day exam. These are 8 college credits on a transcript. And that makes a little bit of difference as opposed to a one-day assessment, how you performed on that one day versus having an actual college transcript credit. So it is a great experience. So during the junior year and senior year, the students are diving deeper into their topics. They're really honing down, becoming specialists on them. And then they compete in competition. So you've heard of like Regeneron competitions. Right now our juniors and our seniors are prepping for the WESF, the Westchester Engineering and Science Fair that we have coming up, which always corresponds to the same day as the Science Olympiad, state competition. So there's always so many days and there's always so many competitions. But it's a wonderful program where the kids compete. So all those high-end science competitions, Regeneron we were at last year, one of our students made it to the International Science Fair, and so competed with students from 60, 70 different countries. And so we were in Dallas, Texas with the student competing. Did very, very well, a wonderful experience. So this is a niche program for those kids that really want to focus on a science topic. And the science is broad because it is social sciences as well as mathematics. But if you are humanities based, that the level of expertise from a science research or a research program, we also have a humanities program, which Mr. Lamar will mention a little bit. So if you're sitting here and you're saying, I like that idea of studying and learning about one topic, there's also a humanities version of that science research that Mr. Lamar will make. Okay? Thank you.
Our next program we're going to introduce is our Project Lead the Way Computer Science Pathway. This is a program that Mr. Lamar worked to introduce about 2 years ago. It culminates with a course in cybersecurity, provides students with an excellent opportunity to gain important knowledge and skills and explore an area of interest that they may have that would certainly be ripe for career opportunities in collegiate study. So I'm going to give Mr. Lamar a mic.
Thank you. So one of the great things that I believe we do here at Pleasantville, I'm a little biased, is I feel like we're very responsive to the needs of the students, what they're interested in. We listen to the community. We've looked at past strategic plans. We've listened to the students when they come out from college, identify some needs. Then what we do on our end is we look at some programs and we try to figure out what can we do at this level to try and prepare them for the future. So Ms. Puglisi mentioned one of the humanities research programs. And also a couple years ago, we started the AP Capstone program here. That is a 2-year sequence in the English department. It starts in 10th grade with AP Seminar and progresses to 11th grade in AP Research, where students select their own project, and that project could be in the field of psychology, athletics, music, whatever their interests are. They do a full in-depth research process with a mentor. It becomes a thesis paper with an oral defense, so it's graded a little bit differently rather than a 1-year sit-down approach that some of the more traditional AP exams have. Another field that we looked at, and when we did our research and the growing fields in the future, computer science was a field that we felt needed a little bit more attention. We needed to revamp our program. Previously, we had only offered 2 half-year courses. One was on basic Python programming, another was on basic web design, and then we offered a singular AP in computer science A, which was a Java-based program. So when we looked at sort of some of the colleges and what their requirements were, where the field was progressing, we thought it'd be great if we partnered with an organization called Project Lead the Way. They are an organization that works with Fortune 500 companies, and one of the things that they did is they developed a 4-year sequence in computer programming. That sequence can start in 9th grade with Introduction to Computer Science Essentials. Students will be engaged in Python programming, web design, utilizing MIT App Creator. In fact, I was down there a couple of weeks ago. Students built their own games on their phone by programming, and it was really interesting to see those games come alive. Other things they'll do, they'll program robots, have robots move throughout the school. So it's a great course. It's a great introductory course. That course will then funnel into computer science principles, which would end in an AP, followed by computer science A, and then as well as cybersecurity to top it off. So not only these courses are involved in just computer programming, but it's also ethical. It's also about problem solving, using the computers to our advantage, not just as a means and device for social media, but really becoming creators of technology rather than just sitting back and being passive consumers. Thank you.
Those programs are excellent opportunities for students to engage in really exciting study here in high school. If your student has interest, I strongly encourage you, when you schedule that meeting with the counselor to discuss the academic program for the upcoming school year, we have a conversation about the programs. If you'd like to speak with any one of our department chair people or the teachers who teach those courses, the counselor can also be a conduit for that conversation. And we've got phenomenal members of our team here who are teaching these courses who love it when enrollment increases. So please consider exploring some of these opportunities. We will now transition to Mrs. Connell. She's our coordinator of school counseling services. She's going to talk a little bit about academic transcripts, wellness, and the college admissions process as it relates to some of these advanced programs.
Thank you so much. So, as I was listening to everybody, it's so exciting to hear all the offerings that we have here, and especially as an incoming student, I'm sure your mind is spinning about, I want to try this, I want to take that. And I really would like to caution students around jumping into too many things at one time. 4 years is a long time here at high school, and you have 9 periods each day over the course of those 4 years to fill with many different types of offerings. And so I think when you meet with your counselor and you're talking about, what would be the best course load for you next year, think about all the things that you enjoy, not just things that you're taking in class, but do you enjoy sports? Do you enjoy music? Are you an artist? Do you do things in the community? Because all of those things also take time. And so you want to make sure that you have time to do all of those things and enjoy them. School is a one-and-done experience for some students, right? You go through those 4 years and it happens so quickly, and then you say, wow, I wish I did this, I wish I would have done that. So when you get a chance to look through your portals in a few weeks and you see the course recommendations, step back, as Mr. Palumbo said, and realize that each teacher was looking at only their one course when they made that recommendation. They weren't looking at all 7 or 8 courses that were put in there. And so it doesn't mean that you need to take every single one of those courses, and meeting with the counselor to discuss what are those courses going to be like, what can I expect during the course of the year. As Mr. Fondi mentioned, we do encourage challenge, but challenge comes in many ways. You can challenge yourself through leadership, you can challenge yourself through service, you can challenge yourself through different participations in sports and clubs, and we really want to encourage students to do that. So my bullet on wellness is really, where I'm speaking to right now. All that being said, there are a lot of perks if you choose to take some honors courses and advanced placement courses through the years. One of those is that you do get an additional weight, if you will, applied to your course average at the end of the year. So on a student's transcript at the conclusion of the year, every course is listed. Whether or not you pass or fail that class, the grade is shown on the transcript and is averaged into your yearly average. That course is multiplied by either a 1 point, a 1.05, or a 1.10 quality point, if you will. And so if a student got a 77 and you multiplied it by 1.05, that might reflect, and my math person's not here tonight, but somewhere around maybe an 80, okay? If you got an 85 and it was multiplied, say, by the 1.10, that might then bring it up to somewhere around like an 88. But that's not reflected on the transcript. It's reflected in the average. So the grade you earn in the course is what you see. And that's why it's important for students to understand that if you're taking an honors course or an AP course, the college, or whatever program you're looking to enroll in will see how you performed in that class. So just being enrolled in honors or just being enrolled in advanced placement in and of itself does not make you eligible, if you will, for that particular college or that program. It's the performance in that class. And so, as harsh as this sounds, it's not good to take an honors or an AP class and not do well in it, okay? So if you want to take the class, go in knowing that yes, it's going to have more expectation and challenge, and also your performance at the end of the year is what really will make the difference. And so that's why we really want to make sure you pick those courses that you enjoy, right? That you find an interest in, and that you're willing to do that extra work in. And then the last thing I would say in terms of the college admissions process is that you're going to hear a lot about it over the years. It's for some of you that are in here tonight, it's many years down the road. So I would not take courses for the sole purpose of college admissions, because 4 years down the road, things change. And the hardest thing a counselor can hear from a student is, I wish I never did this because I didn't get what I thought I was going to get out of it. And that is never the reason to do something. You should do any activity, you should take a class, you should be involved in music, whatever it is, because it's something that you enjoy and something that you really want to benefit from personally, not that there's an outcome that you're expecting to achieve from it. Because if that outcome doesn't happen, a student can sometimes feel that it wasn't worth it. And every experience you have here should be worth it. There's so many talented people who work here, who give their day-to-day blood, really make students enjoy the things they do. And it's not about what you want to get out of it. It should be, what you're putting into it and how it makes you feel. So I hope that helps everybody tonight. I'm here if you have any questions. I look forward to meeting some of our new students in the spring. And each of the counselors are very excited about the students coming in as well. Thank you.
So we have some prepared questions, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A with the group. Mr. Fondy is our resident MC. So I will ask Mr. Fondy to kind of lead this portion of the evening. I want to emphasize that it's our goal to provide you with all of the information that you need to make the best possible choices for your children. If you're watching this at home, maybe you couldn't make it this evening, obviously asking a question live isn't an option. And you can reach out to the counselor directly if there's a question we don't touch on, so that we can provide you with information that you need. I sound like a broken record. I've talked a few times already about scheduling that meeting with the counselor. This would be a great reason to do that if something still remains unclear for you and you would like to have some additional conversation. So without any further ado, I'm going to let Greg lead a little discussion here.
Before I begin, these first two questions will be asked to our World Language Department Chairperson, Mrs. Blanco, and on the end of the seating area is Mrs. DeFranco. She's our English Chairperson. Mr. Franco, what's the difference between honors, advanced placement, and dual enrollment courses, if that is your question? It's Ms. Blanco's question. Can you tell us, what are the differences in these courses? I touched upon them earlier, but from a teaching standpoint, what is the...
Well, hola, bonjour, ciao, good evening. As Mr. Fonley had already mentioned, all three courses have a rigorous and very challenging curriculum. The honors curriculum is locally developed, and we follow the New York State standards. The honors classes have advanced coursework. They have more in-depth and are taught at a faster pace. They have demanding terms of preparation, time, and studying. We give a local exam in June, and the honors track is usually based on the student's average of 90 or higher. and also with a teacher's recommendation. And that depends also on the subject. And that's for honors. For AP courses, we already heard, it's an open enrollment policy. The curriculum that is followed is placed by the College Board, and the class is taught at a college level with higher expectations than Regents and honor courses. The students will take the course and they will finish in May taking the AP exam. If they score 5, that tells us they've achieved an excellence in the subject area. What we have to be careful is that colleges may accept these grades for credit depending on the institution, as Mr. Fomley had said. Dual enrollment courses, that is providing college credit in a high school setting. So being here, not leaving the school where you're accustomed to being with your friends and being able to take a college class. We are partners with Syracuse University, Mercy University, and Westchester Community College. The curriculum is provided by the partners schools, and the subject is taught by certified teachers here at the high school. 3 to 4 credits can be earned, and a college transcript is also provided. The credits can be potentially transferable to other colleges and universities. Thank you.
Thank you. Something interesting about the advanced placement courses, the teachers, for the most part, take a summer workshop in the course. They learn how to teach that different course. They have to be approved by the College Board to teach the class. Mr. Franco now, she teaches English 9th grade honors, but she also teaches the Regents level or the grade level courses, so she can give you some good information about the workload in these classes.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Mr. Franco. I do teach the 9th grade Regents level classes and honor classes here at the high school. When it comes to these courses and how do we look at the workload that's involved, now obviously that's going to depend a lot on the course itself in the subject area. Generally speaking, we're looking at an advanced curriculum and an accelerated pace in the honors classes and the AP classes. That pacing is a result of 2 things: the number of books, let's say an English class that we're covering in an honors class. That pacing also connects a lot to the approved curriculum that's been provided. In an AP course, that curriculum is provided through the College Board and approved through the College Board, so there's a set amount of work that does need to be covered. Obviously, that's going to influence how quickly teachers will move through that material. As far as the particulars of a curriculum, I'll give you an example from the English 9 classes, where all of my students, whether they're in Regents or honors, read a certain set of books that are the same. We do differentiate the honors program with 2 separate books, one of them being Frankenstein. You know, if you've had an experience with that book, you might realize that that's an intense book, a book that requires a lot of information, both that is provided in the book and some secondary information through supplementals. The vocabulary included in a book like Frankenstein is quite elevated. In fact, I think there's 250 words from Mary Shelley's book that have appeared on the SAT. It's a lot of words. You take an example of that, and that already, the book itself is advanced. What students are expected to do and produce with that book is also quite different. In a Regents level class, I would expect my students to be able to identify the plot structure, and what's happening in the story, maybe some literary devices. My honor students have moved beyond that point, right? The plot is the base level. We're looking at an analytical skills at this point. What can they do with that plot? Are they looking at the author's decision in picking certain words? So what does that mean? Why does the author have the character speak or react in this way? How does that affect the storyline? So the questions and what they're expected to produce is also on a higher level.
Thank you, Mr. Franco.
Mr. Fomley, could I make a comment?
Of course.
I did one. to clarify also with the dual enrollment classes that students get 2 transcripts. They would get their high school transcript, which shows the course grade that they earned in the high school on their high school transcript. But if they go to a college and they want to have the college credit applied, you would need to reach out to the institution like Syracuse University, Mercer University, or Westchester to get their college transcript sent directly to the place that the student is enrolling. So you actually have, that's why it's dual enrollment, you have 2 separate transcripts. So I just wanted to specify that.
Yeah, if I'm a parent right now, I'm an 8th grade parent, I'm thinking there's a lot of information being presented tonight. In addition to having it filmed and being able to watch it again, this is something that you'll be in constant contact, as Joe mentioned earlier, with your guidance counselor. So this is, you can always call them in terms of questioning. You know, she just mentioned getting transcripts from a different college, and that is something that you wouldn't even think of, but that happens throughout the year, and by the time you're a junior, senior, your child's a junior, senior, you'll be able to navigate all the different steps and different levels of information and accessing information. Mrs. Puglisi is the next panelist. What are some of the characteristics, Mrs. Puglisi, a successful student in these advanced courses?
Well, one thing, make sure you pick a class you want to be in, right? So when it's important that you do work with your counselors and find something that you really want to study, right? And sometimes what we want to do might be outside of our comfort zone, but you want to be there. It wants to be your decision. So students, make sure you're involved in every step of every class that you take. Be active in that role. What else do you need to do? Well, you need to want to do work in that class, right? We want to be a little bit self-motivated. If I bring up a topic in class, I'd like you to maybe say, well, I heard this and I read this, and I bring things in and make that exciting in the classroom. So show interest in it, pick something that you're passionate about, but be a little bit self-motivated too. So if we give you something to read, you're gonna have to really not like this, but really dive in and bring in those outside things that you're doing into it. Be passionate about it. And the biggest one, don't be afraid to ask for help. We're all not perfect. We're not coming in knowing everything. We're there in those classes. We have good skill set. We want to learn, but there is sometimes that we need help. And I guess I kind of jumped into the second question, Mr. Fondi. So is that okay that I just continue with that? Okay, I'm gonna jump into that. But don't be afraid to ask for help. Sometimes we feel overwhelmed, and that's okay. We're worried about the big test coming up on Friday, but the big test is just a blip. Our hard work came from the 2 weeks prior to that when we were doing the little homework, and then another homework, and then another homework. So if you give it your best on all those little things, we don't worry about the big test at the end. That's gonna take care of itself, right? So come in, do the best you can every day, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, ask for help. We're here, activity period. Activity period is the last period of the day. 10th period, you could come in, meet with your teacher, sit down and get some one-on-one help if you're struggling.
So just to piggyback what Ms. Puglisi said, I think, when we think about expectations moving into some of these courses, time management is a huge concept that we need to talk about. Ms. Khan talks about balance. Just to give you a ballpark figure, on average, per class, per AP, you can see anywhere between half an hour to an hour's worth of homework. If you do the math on that pretty quickly and you take 4 APs or 5 APs, you're upwards possibly of 4 or 5 hours of homework a night. So our school day ends at 2:50, then activity period, then some type of activity after school. We have the play going on right now. Kids are there for all hours, sports, multiple hours. You eat dinner, so please be cognizant of that when you make your decisions. So you are studying something you're interested in, and by the time you potentially get to that 3rd or 4th hour, you are still motivated and you are fresh. And that is that balance and that wellness piece that we're really talking about here. So please keep that in mind as you move forward with your high school careers.
Along the same lines of doing some of that math, if you think about the typical day for a student, and your student is enrolled in each one of the core 4, English, science, social studies, and math, and a world language, let's say, They're taking their science and their PE period, which is about a period, and then their lunch period. That's 7 out of the 9 periods that we have during the day, which leaves you really with 2 open periods. And what our counselors have done, Joyce, correct me if I'm wrong, they will typically, for our 9th grade students, encourage them to take 1 elective and leave 1 period open. Some folks might say, well, why do that? You could take another class. A big reason we do that is so that students can get a head start on the work that they're doing that evening here in the building. They'll know before they leave if they need help, which then enables them to access their teachers during our activity period. And I think sets up that balance towards, that equation towards balance that we've been talking about throughout the evening. You know, so as you do look to develop your academic program for this upcoming year, it might make sense to look at those 9 time slots, our 9 periods, map out what your day might look like, and how you can set your student up, or if you're a student, how you can set yourself up, you know, for the most success, so that all the things that you want to do during the day and then after school hours are attainable and something that you can achieve.
Can I add one more thing on that? And the other thing, I don't need the microphone for that, we can pass this back. I'm a good at yelling. For the TV meeting, I'm sorry, I was good at yelling. But the other piece that I want to say is we use a learning management system called Schoology, and so the teachers are posting everything. And what's great is, you know, there's some wonderful things coming up. You have a concert that you want to go to, you have a sport game, you have a science event, but these things are posted ahead of time. And what would be great to do is to kind of look and lay out your week and say, okay, I know I have a lab due on Sunday night. I'm going to break this up a little bit over the next couple of nights so that you're not crazy doing it all on that one day. So look ahead and plan. Try and plan for those things during the week. So that's another one. Add that one to that list.
Mrs. Puglisi mentioned that the lab is due on a Sunday night. I just want to go over what that means if that ever occurs. Schoology gives a posting when the kids submit the assignments online. The teacher might have assigned it on Monday, and they have all week to do that work. So it's not assigned on a Friday afternoon. And recognizing that will give kids the opportunity during the weekend if they would like to finish that up. So that's not something that's assigned Friday afternoon, then it's due Sunday night. It's given many days. It gives kids the opportunity, if they wanted to, on the weekend. I mean, they could submit a Tuesday night, Wednesday night, whatever they want to. All right. I'm going to take care of the next slide, which deals with advanced placement exams and dual enrollment credits. We have an advanced placement coordinator in the building who also is a teacher. And this person is responsible for all the coordination of the advanced placement exams. And how that works is, the exams are not free. Every advanced placement exam is charged by the College Board. This year's fee is $98. As you know, next year will be higher by a couple of dollars. And it'll be higher the next year by a couple of dollars. So the coordinator works with your child's teacher. For example, if young students in this room right now are in 8th grade, I would say if they're in the advanced track, they'll be taking advanced placement world social studies their sophomore year. That will be their first test of an advanced placement exam. Their teacher will work with them to organize the payment and communicate with the parents on that. We take the payment, we take care of all the registration. You don't have to register for this at home. We collect the payments, we work on that. If a student later in the year decides to drop the course, you have to still pay $40, but those are some of the minute details, okay? The next one is the dual enrollment credits. Again, these classes are mostly upperclassmen, but I'll tell you anyway, the teacher will work with you in terms of the payment. The teacher will be the liaison with the college to register the child. Your son or daughter does not have to go to Syracuse or Mercy University on a Saturday morning to register with the students already in college. That gets done internally here. All right, the AP exams. It's a national exam. It's taught by our teachers. We give the exams here in the high school. You don't have to go to some testing center or some other large high school to take these exams. It's the 2nd and 3rd week of May. There's a schedule. For example, I mentioned AP World. It might be Wednesday, May whatever, the second week of May. We'll take the exam either in the gymnasium or we'll block off a section of the high school for all the AP exams. We turn off the bells so there's no limited noise and disruptions during the period that they take the exam. That's how that works. There was something that we mentioned about the scores for the AP exam being 1 to 5. The next question would be, does that score show up on my son or daughter's transcript? It does not. Also, that score is not a part of their grade for the year because it is graded during the summer months. And what the AP College Board, they do is they hire teachers around the country to grade these exams. And they might say AP Calculus. They'll have various centers throughout the country where they'll bring in teachers to grade the exams. We have teachers that do that in the summer. The AP College Board, they pay those teachers directly for their input and grading. So again, those grades do not appear on the transcript. You might say, well then is there a final exam in that course? There's a lot of different things that I don't want to get into, depending on if the student has a Regents exam in that course. But as a general rule, that exam does not appear on their transcript, nor is it factored in. So for example, you might say, oh, they took it their sophomore year, and then the school will retroactively go back and change the transcript. That doesn't happen. So if your child scores a 5 on the exam, that doesn't appear in the transcript. That doesn't boost their average. If they did poorly on the exam, that doesn't negatively impact their grade. So those are the questions about the AP and the dual enrollment
Greg,
courses.
one other thing about the AP exams. Traditionally, they were pencil and paper exams. What's happening increasingly is that the College Board is moving to a digital format for those exams. There are many that will be digital this year. I would imagine that in following years that trend will continue. Probably will not be too long. Maybe by the time the 8th graders in the room are seniors, they might all be digital. So that is something that is on the horizon. I know the middle school recently just did some digital testing, for statewide assessments that take place. We don't do that here at the high school as it relates to our Regents exams. But this shift from the College Board, a third party that we're working with, is pushing some of these changes. The digital format will be something that students will encounter, in coming years when they sit down for AP exams. What we'd like to do now is open the floor, answer any questions that you might have, about your students' academic program, our programs here, course offerings that we have. Yes?
I have a couple of questions about AP Seminar and AP Research. Are those taken instead of English or in addition? And then also, if a student is interested in taking the Science Research and the AP Research series, do you recommend that? Do kids usually do that? Or how do you guide a student in making that decision?
So I'll take the first part of the question, which is around taking English 10 versus, let's say, taking AP Seminar. On the transcript, what you will see is English 10 hyphen AP Seminar. So that does satisfy your English 10 requirement. Now, we've done that because when you go to that classroom, students are reading, writing, and speaking, developing all the skills that you would see in a typical English class. It's also allowed us to get around that conundrum we talked about in terms of the fact that there are only 9 periods in the day, and students want to take a lot of courses. So that's really allowed us, like I say, to have a healthy enrollment in those classes, and students seem to be very happy with that course. The other questions that you asked, I want some of my other colleagues chime in, offer some information.
I just think with everything else, it depends on the way your son or daughter, your child's brain works. When we envisioned the AP Seminar and AP Research class, it was to entice a student who wasn't exactly thrilled about reading literature but loved research. If they are interested or passionate about something really specific that they wanted to dive in and take a look at, humanities-based, then I would steer them in the direction of the AP Seminar Research. If they're more hands-on, more experimental in their design, then I would steer them perhaps in the direction of the science program.
I would agree.
Could they do both?
Typically, you can do both, absolutely, 100%. Just a note, the AP seminar and research are 10th and 11th grade. And then in the science, it starts in 10th grade and then progresses into your 11th and 12th grade years.
This hasn't been done yet, but it might be kind of interesting to see what happens in the future if someone finds a way to kind of, for lack of a better expression, marry their science and their interest in that research project, where there is a humanities component and a science component. I'm sure that there might be something that we see in the future, because the foundational research skills that are taught in the first year of both programs are very similar. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something you see in the future.
That's a question that my child has asked, if you can use your science, your AP research, if you can do the same project for both classes, for science research and AP.
Both courses have a review board process where you develop a research question, and then go through some preliminary steps to get approval. So those are, I'm sure, ripe opportunities that we'll see in the future, for students here in high school.
The humanities culminates prior to.
Yeah, as you know, with your son being in the science research, that every time we have a competition or event, things tweak, things change. But I would say that the base root information remains interchangeable, but there's always something we need to address for a particular competition, or look at it. Some do a deeper dive into the review of literature. Some will do a deeper dive into the experimentation or the results pieces. So it's possible, but everything is tweakable.
I apologize if this has been covered before, but maybe Ms. Connell, you can answer this question. For the incoming 9th graders, we're talking about school counselor's guidance. When do we know, or should I have already known, who my daughter's counselor is?
So letters will go out during our winter break, which I think is in a week and a half. And in that letter, we'll tell you who the counselor is, and also information about reaching out to our office and making an appointment. During the next week and a half, the 8th grade faculty will be starting to put in their recommendations into the portal. The portal will be opened after the break, and parents and students will be able to see the courses that they've selected when they were with us, as well as the recommendations from their faculty.
Thank you.
I will insert a question that a few people have asked. Ms. Connell, if a student changes their mind based on the work that they did initially around, let's say, the selection of an elective, is there flexibility for changes going forward, or how does that work?
Yes, so when they meet with their counselor, if they originally selected ceramics and now they want to take digital art, that's fine, we can make those changes. They can also meet with their counselor if they've been recommended for an honors class and want to take a Regents level, we can make those changes. We try to close the portal around, I think this year it's going to be the middle of April, because we have a late spring break, an early spring break rather. And as a result of that, we start building the master schedule. So it becomes a little bit difficult after that to start making too many changes, because once courses are assigned to a time slot during the day, if a student makes the change, it may not always work as easily. So we try to close the portal and then start building the master schedule.
We got a student question up front.
Do you guys recommend all honors?
I'll let the counselor take a look at that.
So there are many students who have done that, and so it's always one of those questions of the student themselves. What are they capable of? What are they interested in? What are their other areas of interest outside of the classroom? So I would never say a flat out yes or no. Personally, I would say that it's a very challenging program. It's, as you heard Mr. Lamar talk about the amount of homework that there is. Ms. DeFranco spoke about some of the additional readings and things that there are. It's cumbersome. It's very, very challenging. And depending on how you manage your time, which is something we would talk about as a counselor with a student, what are some of the other obligations you have? How do you spend your time? How much do you like to sleep? Do you like to spend time with your friends? Are you, interested in, maybe watching a TV program now and then? So those are all important things. And one of the things I would say is, as I mentioned earlier, there's 4 years, right? So maybe pick 2 or at most 3 of those classes that you absolutely love and want to, try. And then the next year, jump in, if you feel, to the 4th, and maybe the next year to the 5th, and so on. One of the things when we were talking about colleges earlier is they are looking for growth, right? They're looking for a student who, over the years develops. And if you throw all your eggs into that basket in the first year, there's not much for them to really look forward to. So then there's that commitment to stability and really being able to maintain all of those grades. So I would give yourself a chance to grow as a learner and try not to do all of it at once.
Thanks.
A couple questions. So first, can you explain the difference between the weighted average for an AP class performance during the year and then the final AP exam at the end where they get 3, 4, or 5? You said it doesn't go into this transcript, but then how do colleges see the final AP exam?
Joyce will talk about the weighting because there's different weightings for honors and AP classes, and she will talk about the colleges being notified on your AP scores because, yeah, thank you.
So the transcript is a high school document. The transcript holds all of the students' courses and their end-year grades. At the end of each year, there's a cumulative average and a yearly average that's calculated on the student's transcript. Separate from that are those AP scores. Those go into the College Board's student account. So every student will create an account with the very first exam that they take. That could even be an SAT exam, or it could be an AP exam, or a PSAT that they may take. When they apply to college, they have the option of including those scores on their application through self-disclosure. And then the college, if they are looking for verification, will ask the student to submit those scores, and you pay a fee. I think right now it's up to like $18 per exam, per school. Everything's money. But you don't usually do that until you've actually been admitted and you're looking to get the credit for those particular tests. So in the application portion of the process, the student indicates it on their application. Everything is on the honor system. So you would put that you've gotten a 5 or a 4. It goes to the college, and then when you enroll, they would ask for verification of that.
Just to follow up there, so does that mean the school transcript is based on a different assessment as opposed to the AP exam?
Exactly. So the AP exam is a standalone exam that the student takes to receive potentially college credit. The school may give a Regents exam, for example, AP US History. The student will take a US History Regents at the end of the course. In other classes, maybe like an AP Calculus, they may not have a final exam, they may do a project.
And so that's what results in the school transcript?
Yes.
Other assessment?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes?
Does college admission typically places a higher weight on the weighted GPA or the unweighted?
So we disclose a weighted GPA on the student's college report that the counselor completes, but the transcript has both, so that the college can make the decision. So often when we're meeting with students, we'll say to them, when you go to visit the college, ask them, which scores are you going to use? Unfortunately, sometimes they don't use either one of them, and they calculate their own average based on the information that they take off. So they may choose to exclude courses that they don't consider to be academic or core level classes. So any electives a student may have taken, they may choose to exclude those from the average.
And that leads to me to just a little simple piece of advice is as you begin to look at colleges and universities, they all do business very differently. Those are really important questions to ask when you do your visits, because they can provide you with information about how they look at the transcript and how they treat it once you apply. Schools that get a very high volume of applications are likely not going to be recalculated just because it's too much work for their office to do. Smaller institutions that might be more selective, you might find that they do that level of work.
But each institution operates very differently. So it's important to ask those questions. That's a great question. In the back. Hi.
So one thing that's changed dramatically since I was in high school is the sheer number of AP courses and dual enrollment options. So there's between 20 and 30, right? What is a healthy range for a smart kid who's likely going to a college with a name you would recognize, keeping in mind that there are extracurricular activities that they're interested in and they have, they want to maintain their mental health? Just as a guy, like 5 to 10, 6 to 20, like.
So this is an answer that no one's going to love. It depends. All right. And again, if I get back to the advice I gave about having the conversation with the counselor and working with the student and the family to develop the best possible program, I think that will lead you to some conclusions around what might be the best fit for your student. I would also, and I'll give this to Joyce because I'm not a guidance counselor. I feel like one sometimes, but I'm just going to give some two thoughts on my mind about this, and I'll let Joyce chime in to share anything that I might have missed. The other thing is, you might want to start to think about a 4-year plan, right? Like some folks who have a very specific college, university, or like let's say a group of college universities in mind, you might look at the profile of the most successful candidates, which is something that you can do in our school admissions program, which is School Links. We used to use a program called Naviance. You can get that profile of what those candidates look like. You can have a conversation with your student about how comfortable they are taking on some of those challenges, and then develop a plan based on the level of rigor that the student wants to pursue in each one of the content areas in the 9th grade, the 10th grade, the 11th grade, 12th grade. Also taking into consideration what Joyce shared about that development over time. I really think that's an important feature. I know that I get asked to write letters of recommendation each year. Some of the best letters that I've been able to write for students are ones where each year the bar rises a little bit, academically, athletically, artistically, whatever endeavor the student might be interested in. So those are some things I would keep in mind. Joyce, how about you?
I would agree with everything Mr. Palumbo said. I think that it's unfortunate that we can't give direct answers to some of these questions because there are 5,000 colleges and universities that have a dozen different programs within each one of their schools, and every answer would be different for each one. So I always go back to what I started with earlier, which students should do what they love and love what they do, and not do things with an expected outcome. Because I could tell you, take 10. And the school you applied to needed 5. And then the student might feel like, well, that was 5 extra courses I took that week, right? So there really will never be a guaranteed answer, and I think that students should walk away from their 4-year experience feeling as though they did the things that they wanted to do and got the most out of them. And if by chance that dream college is a yes, then that's wonderful. But sometimes it's not the first choice, it's the second choice. And I've always, and when I say always, I mean this wholeheartedly, have students come back and say to me, it ended up being the best, option for me. And it's hard to hear that in the moment when the letter comes or the bells whistle on the computer when the student gets admitted. But it always works out, and students end up in the places that they belong. It's just not what they thought it was going to be at that moment.
When do we get access to School Links?
So actually, middle schoolers are starting to get access to it right now. We've worked with, I believe, the 7th and 8th grade already. Ms. Roth and Ms. Leiden have started to get them on it. They're doing things more career-based and more identifying their interests and their skills and things of that nature. Next year, when they come into the high school, they'll do a little bit more, and then each year a little bit more. We really delve into the college piece closer to the junior year. Mostly because we want the students to be able to really learn and grow and become individuals and not really focus on anything specific.
Thanks, Joyce. Quick point. First of all of our kids here tonight will be accepted to Pleasantville High School in the fall. All right? Now, there's a reason why I say that. So let's think about it. We have 13 and 14-year-olds in this room right now. I didn't introduce Mr. Carey, who is a the social studies chairperson, one of the chairpersons. He's obviously a middle school teacher and a high school teacher, and I wanted to get his perspective. Mr. Carey, if students are successful at Pleasantville Middle School and you've taught at the high school, what is your general observations of how they do in the high school?
Yeah, I mean, good habits always succeed in high school courses. You know, a big part of it is, you know, studying and putting set aside time, going and reaching out for help when you need it, even though you may be somebody who's really intelligent and you have a big course load. It's always a good thing to ask for help. And it's really important to talk to the teacher too. If you're not really interested in something, you know, that's probably not a good idea for you to take that course in honors in high school, as we mentioned earlier. But doing all one's homework, raising your hand during class, even asking intriguing questions, that's showing that you're really interested in the topic, and that's really important. And, you know, teacher recommendation also is key. So if a teacher has a concern in 8th grade, you really should talk to that teacher. You know, we're going to give preliminary recommendations after midterms. We've already taken midterms in first, second quarter. You know, your teachers will indicate where you stand, and you are not automatically in these courses until you finish, you know, third, fourth, and final exams. So it's a good time to touch base with your middle school teachers to see where they feel you are. And if your teacher has a concern, they can give you areas to work on if you really want to be on that course. So I think that's really all important parts of this for the transition to high school and honors work.
Thanks, Mr. Carey. Any other further questions? Yes.
Is there a way to preview what you'll learn in the course before we decide?
The question is there a way to preview the course before you make the decision on taking that course? First of all, it's one of the best questions I've heard in a long, long time, because you're asking me to take an honors level course or a Regents level course, and I don't really know what's in there. Well, there's one quick thing I can tell you, and then we can also talk as a group after this, is that on the guidance website, there is something called a course catalog. And in the course catalog, so if you visit the Pleasantville High School website, it's the same location if you go to the middle school, just click on the high school. And if you visit the counseling website, it gives you a lot of information about the college process, future meetings, seminars. But there's also the course catalog, which gives you a little bit of a snapshot of each course and what's going to be taught in that course. I would also ask you, and it might not be easy for an 8th grader, but maybe have it to a parent, is if you have any questions, as Mr. Palumbo mentioned, speak to your guidance counselor in the middle school or call the high school guidance office, and we'd be more than happy to meet with you after school or have an email exchange or have a phone conversation. Okay? That's how that works.
The course syllabus
Yeah.
might be a great opportunity to kind of look at what happens, you know, during the school year. So you're also, because you're connected on Schoology, right? So contacting our teachers here, you know, at the high school and asking if you can see a copy of the syllabus isn't a bad idea at all. I think that'd be a wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit more about the courses that you're interested in.
Very good question. I know there's a hand up in the back, and I'll come over here. Yes?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about the kind of like the ceiling, the maximum courses a student might take, but what is the core requirement?
Sure.
Is there kind of like, do you have to take every single
Sure.
subject every year? And then how do the electives factor into that?
Sure. I will let you know that answer right now. New York State prescribes a certain amount of courses in each discipline. Every New York State student must take 4 years of social studies. Every student must take 4 years of English. You're required to take 3 years of math. You're required to take 3 years of science. You have to take 1 full year of an elective that could be band, chorus, orchestra, or the visual arts, or course, if I mentioned that before.
Every year?
No, it's 1 credit means that's a full year course or 2 half-year courses for the elective. So the minimum requirement is, let's say, 1 year of being in band or orchestra or arts. I'm telling you now what happens here. So obviously you're taking 4 years of English, you're taking 4 years of social studies. Most kids are taking 4 years of science. Most students are taking 3 to 4 years of mathematics. Most kids are taking more than 1 year of the elective of the performing or visual arts. I did mention, Mrs. Blanco, I haven't forgot about the world languages. Students are required to take a full year of languages. A lot of students here take their middle school years count as 1 year. They take a year here as well in the high school. Now, some students are not required to take world languages based on their learning and their learning program. But for a general rule, you have to take at least a year in the high school of a world language. Our kids, on average, that start take at least freshman, sophomore, and junior year, and then they have choices their senior year to take advanced placement languages or college Italian or what we call a Spanish 4-5 class. There's minimum requirements in terms of each year. Freshmen have to take a minimum of 6 credits, and it goes on a little bit less for a senior. But we're asking for people to have a robust schedule, not for the minimum. Does that answer your question?
Yes, just to clarify about the electives. Though.
Sure.
If the art, 1 credit of art is not satisfied this year, can the student then take it either sophomore or
Yeah.
or?
A lot of students might not take their art elective in 1 year. They have to take 1 full year. That can be over, they could take it their sophomore year, first half and second half, or maybe 1 half in their freshman year, 1 half in their junior, because that could happen because the difference between a high school and a middle school is that the students make the schedule. We don't. At the middle school, they tell you you're taking these courses, and then during that quinter quad, you're taking these electives, X amount of weeks. At the high school, you're telling us what to take. So when Joyce Connell, our guidance coordinator, mentioned before the master schedule, that is a laborious process to try to mesh all the different course offerings with the student choices. So you can take it over 4 years. You might, based on your schedule, you might not get the course that you want your freshman year. That's just reality in a high school environment. It happens in Pleasantville, it happens in every other high school. So you have different opportunities.
Thank you.
Yes?
Thank you very much for tonight, very informative, and it seems the students all chance are going to work very hard. Is there any percentage what's the percentage of them getting to their dream college? And yearly, is there any statistics about how many will get into Ivy League within the last 4 years, for example, from the high school, from the residence?
On average, each graduation class, we have anywhere between 93 and 96% of our students will go off to college. In most years, I would say about 10% of that could be a 2-year college, and the majority, it's a 4-year school. We don't separate out Ivy Leagues from, colleges in general. I can tell you that probably anywhere between 30 to 35% of our graduation class goes to highly selective schools, which means that their admission statistics can range anywhere from the Ivy Leagues, which can be 3 to 4% of their admissions, to maybe about 15%, which is, could be a school like Middlebury, could be a school, that's, University of Chicago is not a, an Ivy League, but certainly in that range. But I think most importantly, when we speak of dream schools, it may not be an Ivy League school. Yeah, so I would say that most of our students are getting into the, first or second choice school.
If you look at the back of our school profile, which is located on the website, I've actually put that in some of the communication that I've sent out to 8th grade families recently. It gives you a breakdown of the schools that students were admitted to. I think those are in regular print, and I think the bold ones are the ones that they accepted or they chose to attend, enroll in. So that can give you some great information just about all the different types of colleges and universities that students are attending. It doesn't include information about our students who attend a vocational center in Southern Westchester and pursue a vocation when they finish, or students who make the decision to serve our country and enroll in the armed services, or one of the newest phenomenons, some of our students who do a gap year and get involved in work study or travel all over the globe. My daughter's informed me that she's interested in a gap year. I'm interested to learn more about that. That sounds like a wonderful opportunity. Our primary mission here is to equip your children to have as many options as possible when they finish, and to follow the path that best suits them.
Yes.
The science research program, do you get a grade to complete that program, and does that factor into the overall GPA calculation?
The science research course is a graded course, so you actually get a grade. There's work to do every semester, every working period for the course. There is no midterm, there is no final in the course, but there is the expectation to present at a symposia and to compete in certain competitions.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for addressing the gap year conversation. I was wondering if there's an opportunity for any exchange programs, whether during the summer or during the school year, with any sister cities or other schools or universities abroad.
So we don't host those types of programs. However, we have had students who've been involved in some early college study programs here nationally, and they've traveled abroad and been involved. Those are certainly not programs we would discourage students from getting involved in. One of the things that I've noticed, and Joyce, again, in the counseling lane, if I miss it, just please share the information with families. When students are typically involved in those programs, they will get a transcript, let's say it's through Johns Hopkins or it's through NYU or Columbia, and that transcript, in addition to our Pleasantville transcript, becomes a part of their, let's say, admissions packet when they choose to apply for post-secondary schools here. What we don't do is we don't take let's say you get a grade for an experience like that, we wouldn't take that and put that onto our transcript. It would be two different transcripts. Joyce, does that make sense?
Yes.
Answer your question? Perfect.
We have some of our science research students that are doing a research project with students in France, and so they communicate back and forth on the Zoom, and they're looking to go there to present, and hopefully those kids will come here to present. But that's a unique situation.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. We'll be here for some individual questions for a little bit. I thank you so much. As Joe mentioned before, you can always reach us on the website, email, or give us a call in the main office. Thank you. Have a great evening.